Hello and welcome to a new video. This will be a more sit-down, scriptless take on a video, mostly because most of these things are my personal opinions and things I noticed. So while I do have a few pointers, it's mostly just free-flowing, so I apologize if any sentence is constructed poorly. I just don't have a particularly precise script, as there is not many facts to be said. If you're into K-pop whatsoever, I'm sure you have been tuned into this discussion, or at least walked around the perimeters of it, which is the Hybe techno overtake, or the techno problem that Hybe seems to be having at the moment. Hybe, as I think everyone knows, is a big label housing multiple sub-labels, multiple divisions and groups. It's nothing unusual in K-pop nor in Western music. JYP, SM, YG, Cube all do the same thing. If you look at the West, Atlantic Records, for example, does the exact same thing. Earlier on, the Big Red Machine, a very normal industry practice. However, in order for these big label houses to make any profit, which is just basic economics, if you're putting out a product, you expect profit back, you need to cater to multiple niches and have different products that reach those different niches in order to overlap the market. Or in much more K-pop group terms, all groups that you personally house should have different takes, different sounds, and different fan groups in order for your products not to become one another's competition, but in order to make the overall market something reachable to you. Now, naturally, it is better to be in competition with your own product, sure, but ideally you want to differentiate your products enough where all of them can succeed, because in that way you make the most money. And Hybe was mostly successful in those terms. If you asked anyone in early 2025 if Lesserafim, Katseye, Boy Next Door, Illit, TXT, and Hype, Cortis didn't debut back then, had anything musically in common, people would look at you strangely. Lesserafim in early 2025 was just off. Back in 2025, Lesserafim was just off crazy. Illit had around just debuted and slept into their dreamcore sound. Boy Next Door has a very established sound that they were pulling, which is that, as I call it, light 4th gen, 5th gen boy group sound. And Hype and TXT all have their years on established sounds that they explore within. The point was, all those groups were within their own niches, had their own thing, and were very successful or less successful in them, but within the market they have carved out for themselves. And their fans knew, more or less, what to expect from them and what to be happy by or disappointed by. And as releases continue to pile on, fans knew which songs will be more successful and which will be less, depending on what the fan base enjoys. But then in April 30th of 2025, Katseye, which was back then Hybe's newest group, released Gnarly. And we all know what a moment Gnarly was. When Gnarly first released, everyone hated it. And if you were on Twitter at the time, which I was, or on TikTok, quite literally everyone hated it. It was loud, the lyrics made no sense. The hyperpop team was not suited for them. It's not what people expected. They knew the song taken from the original artist, and so it did not seem to fit Katseye, until 2 weeks later those Music Bank fan cams dropped and everyone went crazy. And Gnarly became the biggest song out of Katseye's career. And then later on they released Gabriella and the entire EP. It was overall an incredibly successful year, leading up to a Grammy nomination, a Lollapalooza performance, and all that Gnarly brought to Katseye. For them, while it did not particularly make sense for their style, Gnarly was still, and still is, their most successful song. Which is why they kind of repeated the process early in January with Internet Girl, which was just as loud, just as nonsensical, and had those similar techno hyperpop beats. A year later, which is to say around a month ago, they wanted to perhaps repeat the formula about Gnarly because they released Pinky Up. It's same electropop, hyperpop, techno, very loud, very nonsensical lyrics, and they seem to be trying to remake the strategy for Gnarly, as they also performed it on all of the Korean music shows, which they have not done for Gabriella or Game Boy, for example. It appears to work in the sense that it has many streams, but Katseye are slowly losing their cultural capital. In the more progressive spaces that they have thrust themselves into, the progressive Western spaces, people are on the fence due to the entire Mano situation, which I will not get into as I have not followed it through, and also I don't particularly know. While the K-pop fan base is either in love with them or is very distant towards them, but it is not a market they wish to reach. They seem almost as if they wish to cater to a much more cool older Gen Z Western audience, but all that they can collect as a fan base are Gen Alpha listeners. And this is a personal anecdote, does not have anything to do with, well, any statistics. I'm not sure how true this is, but for example, I work at, or part-time, I work at like a playground, that's not the right word, at birthday parties, you know, those big places where you have birthday parties. And I will tell you that the favorite music choice of all of those Gen Alpha kids that are like between 5 and 9 is Katseye. It is their main demographic. Katseye is for them on the same level as, for example, K-pop Demon Hunters. Whether that is true overall globally or just where I am locally, I don't know, but because I do know locally people who are into K-pop, I will tell you that Katseye is much more popular with children that have not a clue what K-pop is than I think their target audience. All of that would be fine and would be an analysis on Katseye themselves if it were not for the rest of the groups. So before this, the last song that Lesserafim released was in August of 2025, and it was Spaghetti, featuring J-Hope. It led into the same very loud dance pop, hyperpop direction, with loud beats and melodies that did not particularly make any sense, but Spaghetti did not reach any level of criticism particularly, as for one, it was with J-Hope, and two, it was a fun song after Hot, which was their more mature, more elegant song, which is a song I preferred personally. But Spaghetti still seemed within the realm of possibility for Lesserafim. Sure, edging a bit on that techno trend, but nothing out of the ordinary. Until a few weeks ago, Lesserafim released Celebration, which just felt like kind of an off-brand Pinky Up or an off-brand Gnarly. It made no sense for who Lesserafim are as artists or as a group. It's a song I personally dislike. However, that does not mean anything, but it does not sound like anything Lesserafim have released beforehand. It seems as if Spaghetti was kind of a niche before they delve into fully techno. Again, would not be an issue exactly, because prior to it was Spaghetti, prior to it, like a year prior, was Crazy, which was also kind of techno. That is until we look at the fuller picture and we see that Illit released It's Me. And Illit has a very distinct musical identity. It's very much dreamcore, light, kind of. People said they were edging on the New Jeans style, but they did have their own spin on it. They were very soft, very dreamy, very youthful. Whether you like or dislike Illit, I don't think it matters. What's important is that Illit definitely has their own identity, whether you like it or not. And so It's Me, a very techno-heavy track with nonsensical lyrics, made no sense for the branding they have been very meticulously maintaining for a past year or so, however long they've been debuted. I apologize. It certainly caused not exactly an uproar, but a raised eyebrow, both within their fandom and within the larger K-pop community. Illit are, or at least were, not so anymore, quote-unquote controversial due to the entire New Jeans situation, but most people could agree that their music was very distinct and very good. Their music had some quality. Except now with It's Me, I don't think I've heard a single person who says they like it. or that it suits Illit at all, which makes three groups who were supposed to have three very different musical identities. Katseye, who were supposed to be kind of edging on the pussycat doll situation. Lesserafim, who had their own established identity and concept, which sure had been going a bit off the rails, but they still held within the frameworks of that. And Illit, who have the most diametrically opposed concept to the song they have just released. However, it's not even just the girl groups. If you look at, for example, Cortis, they debuted in, I think, September or August of this year. They were already debuted with a very much, more techno, hip-hop, rap-inspired songs, but their songs have been accused of, for example, plagiarizing or taking a very heavy samples of Travis Scott, A$AP Rocky, their early releases as well, and then their most recent release with Red Red faced the same appropriation accusations on top of why is it so techno? Why is it, on top of being kind of a copy, which some people say, why is it so techno? And what in the end tipped me over to make this video is the fact that Boy Next Door released Dok Dok Dok, or that's how I think you translate it from Korean, quote, knock 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 maybe, which was, it is and is not was a very obvious copy of what Kendrick Lamar is doing. They're very heavy on sampling him, and so it was just jarring and unexpected, especially since Boy Next Door, similar to Illit, has a very beloved discography. While they are not very popular as a group, their stands are not very loud. I think most people, myself included, who don't even listen to boy groups or that sort of music in general, mostly unanimously agree that Boy Next Door releases good, decent music, and that all of their music falls into that very fifth gen established genre of songs being lighter or more upbeat, kind of bubbly, with the more Western, sometimes R&B influences. And so this Kendrick Lamar's kind of ripoff with some techno elements makes no sense exactly for them and for who they are, and it feels like the last drop within Hybe's bucket. So what do I think Hybe is attempting to do? Personally, I think they are attempting to recreate an Arlie. I think that's what they attempted with Internet Girl, I think that's what they attempted with Pinky Up, and I think that now that they see it's not really working with Katseye, I think they are attempting to do it with everyone else they have. They are dropping those techno samples in hopes of a similar hit, because Gnarly catapulted Katseye to Western success, and so they believe that the same techno genre, same techno beats will catapult the rest of their groups to the same Western success, which is a strategy that is very obviously not only not working, but alienating the rest of their fan base. Katseye themselves need a serious restructuring issue, because while for now we can see that Pinky Up and Internet Girl are getting streams, like I said, from personal anecdotal experience, it's either streaming farms, Gen Alpha, or just younger K-pop fans. Not that any of those demographics are bad, but it is not a demographic they intend to cater to. At least that's not what the girls say, that's not what the company says. And they will just move the rest of their groups into the similar demographic while alienating the core fan base of all of those groups. It also makes the group lack the social capital element in the sense of being a recognizable brand, which I know I speak kind of strange, it is just K-pop, but within capitalism you do need your brand to be recognizable or easily recognizable in order to be sold better. We knew what we were coming to when someone turned on Illit or Boy Next Door, and with these two songs it confuses the listener, it makes them confused of the brand, almost wary, and if someone who exclusively likes that genre of music that Illit or Boy Next Door were producing, they maybe believe that those two groups will no longer satisfy that need and will go on to search for someone else. Those were naturally just my opinion. I think that if you perhaps love techno, this is a dream come true for you. So which is why I want to ask you, what do you think? Do you think that this is a good thing, that this is a bad thing? Do you think that there is anything that can come out of this that's positive? Do you think it's part of some bigger strategy that Hybe has, or are they perhaps throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks? Thank you so much. This was, like I said, a lot more of a ranty video, so I will definitely be seeing you in the next one, and I apologize for the lack of long form content up until now.